right, everybody, welcome back to HardHat Uncovered. We're coming to you live from the HardHat Uncovered Studios in Alexandria, Virginia.
Woo, woo, woo. That's right.
Welcome back, Lieutenant Oates.
Glad to be back. Thank you.
Mr. Dylan Hipple.
What's going on?
And today's special guest, Mr. Matthew Wireman.
Oh, I thought that was Jimmy Johnson sitting beside me.
All right. Joke start already. Here we go.
Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Glad to be a part. Excited to have some input and jump on board here.
HHU, HardHat Uncovered, man.
That's right.
That's right.
Making waves.
Hey, so for all y'all listeners that are tuning in today, we have Matthew Wireman, who's one of our speeding experts that we brought in. So
is that what
you
you
could
call
say that?
that is
expert?
so.
Got a lot of
what that means is he's got the most speeding tickets out of the group.
Yeah, I don't think that person's here. But.
Yeah, plus our other speeding person had a wreck.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about just speeding, the risks with it, consequences, some of the reasons why people speed, and just everything in between. I'm not a big NASCAR fan, but I'm sure we're going to be doing some NASCAR jokes.
Yeah, I'll definitely be taking some shots at the old left turns.
One rule of NASCAR: don't look to the right. Don't
right.
turn to the right.
They made a left turn and another left turn.
All right, so just jumping right into it. I can tell you, what we probably need to avoid is getting into all the stories that we have about speeding.
Oh, yeah.
As far as the people that we see on the road.
This would be a 2-hour podcast.
We might throw in playing a violin?
Yeah.
Seeing somebody playing a violin on the road or something like that.
Keep in mind, we're working in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area where I'd say it's pretty notorious for bad drivers.
Absolutely.
So we see a lot on a day-to-day basis that we could talk about, but we'll keep it short.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've seen a couple of bumpers since I've been here.
Up close and personal, huh?
Up close and personal.
Maybe someone can explain, why do people leave their bumpers behind on the side of the road? Don't you need that?
Yeah.
Don't you need your license plate?
They just throw that in the back of the truck.
Absolutely.
But so one of the things that we're going to be talking about is just kind of the extra risks that come along with speeding, and I'm pretty sure we'll be talking about distracted driving and some of that comes along with that speeding. So, but that's why we have Matt here today. So Matt, why don't you dive us into some of the topics on speeding here?
Trying to figure out where I want to start here with this.
Let's talk about speed limits.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds good.
It's a good start.
Oh,
point.
Yeah, because you got to know the speed limit to know if you're speeding.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So say you're going 60 miles. So 60 miles an hour. But if you increase that to 70, so you're going 70 miles, so it would take you approximately 51.4 minutes. Increase that to 80 miles an hour, 45 minutes.
So you're saying by going 10 miles per hour faster, we've only saved, 6 minutes?
5 or 6 minutes,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
That's all it got you. And at 90, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So, that's a good bit of time, I guess, but you're going 90 miles an hour.
So you increased your speed from 70 to 90, so 20 miles per hour, and you only saved 11 minutes.
Right.
So is speeding worth the extra risk, right?
Well, I want to throw out this very tough scientifical question. So, if I'm doing 60 miles an hour, how long is it going to take me to drive 60 miles?
Oh, I know this one.
Dylan, you take that one.
60 miles an hour? It's going to take 60 minutes.
All right.
Ding, 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 ding.
So I just want to throw that out there
Winner,
because
chicken dinner.
But you guys didn't know at home that I'm a math whiz.
Oh, yeah. Humana.
But yeah, so that's interesting, man. So based off of that, so if I'm going to travel that same 60 miles, right, and now I just want to drive faster, which typically most of the speed limits I've seen around here, 55. That's kind of the average. I know parts down where I'm from in Texas, I've seen speed limits up to 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, you got those good speed limits.
Yeah, So if you're in the Autobahn, over there in you know, in Germany.
Right, no speed limit.
no speed limit. Hey, but you know what's crazy? Speaking of that, how many accidents they really don't have in the Autobahn over there?
Right.
But when they do have an accident on Autobahn, it's usually fatal. Usually, because they don't have a speed limit.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I can tell you a story. When my brother was stationed over there, and they were doing a deployment to where, you know, when they do deployments, they put the tanks, you know, sometimes they'll have a little bit of travel time on the Autobahn. And this tank was, you know, on the Autobahn, and this Lamborghini hit him from the back. The tank, the people in the tank felt a little bump, but that Lamborghini was disintegrated. That's how fast it hit him. Or like if you're over there, you know, like here when we're in the left-hand lane and somebody flicks us to get over, he's like, you can see a car, which you think that car is 3 or 4 miles down the road, but when it flicks you, the minute you get over, that car is flying by you. You know what I mean? So yeah.
But so that brings up an interesting question. So Matt, how do we determine what's a speed limit? So how do we determine, you know, hey, this road should be 20 miles an hour. You know, you should take this exit at 15 miles an hour. So how do they even determine, you know, what a speed limit should be set at?
Well, actually, there's a lot of different factors that go into play, and I mean, it's something that I don't think I really thought about too much. I don't think any of us really think about it. We just think, you know, this road is set at 50 or whatever, but you know, I'm fine
just
with
pick
my
a random
car.
number,
I'm fine. Like it's no big deal.
Put numbers in a bingo cage.
Yep, that's where I've got it.
Yeah, but I mean, they look into like, you know, like Junior was saying, the geometry of the road, the lane and shoulder widths, different widths,
So how it's
lengths.
shaped, that makes sense.
Like if there's like if it's going through a residential area, or if it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere,
You
like
mean
somewhere
I
in
shouldn't be
Pennsylvania.
going 70 through residential?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but think about this.
Exactly.
Like if you're driving, think about the exits. The exit speed limits, they're different.
Right,
If you
because
pay
they got
attention to them, some of them
the
are
turn and the
45.
bend.
Absolutely. Some of them are
Yep.
30.
The angles.
You know what I mean? And sometimes when we're flying off the freeway at 65,
Right.
and the exit speed limit is 35 or 40, you could lose control depending on what you're
Well,
driving.
Matt just brought up a good point about like the shoulder width and the size of the actual width of the road itself. You know, I'm from the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, and my back roads are typically pretty narrow. And you know, you're normal. You drive right down the middle of the road until you see another car, and then you get over to the right because there's not that giant width. So you know that plays a factor into why speed limits are what they are.
And then even in DC, you know, as we all came familiar with, you know, there could be 4-lane roads,
Right.
but it's 25 mile an hour. It looks like a highway, but for whatever reason, you know, and I'm sure they've done, you know, what we're talking about, all the research
like
and
the volume,
studies
the
and
number of vehicles, the number
people,
of exits.
pedestrians,
Right.
exits, things like that. So, you know, people go flying through there for the first time before they might realize, oh, it's 25.
Yeah, that's a good point about the pedestrians. You know, we got crosswalks all over the place down here because
Right.
a lot of people commute to work that way. So you don't want a high speed limit in an area where people are going to potentially cross because,
Absolutely.
you know, if you're going above that 25, 35 miles an hour, you're not going to see somebody walking across. You know, pedestrians got the right of way. So
Absolutely.
a lot of people don't even look. They just go because they just assume they have the right of way.
Yep.
Yeah, and you know, and I'll tell you, Matt, you know, you brought an interesting point about the, you know, increasing by 10 miles. The fact that it's only going to save me, you know, 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, is it worth
You
it,
know,
really?
For the possible outcomes,
Yeah.
or, you know, what could happen.
Yeah, I tell you what, you know, that $150 ticket
I
for
know,
speeding.
right?
So now you're trying to save 5-6 minutes is
But I
what you're
think-
trying to shave off.
Yeah.
I think the big thing is though, people think of it as you know, being worth the risk almost. Like, how many times have they gone that speed and not got caught so far?
Right.
But then you don't know that the next one could be a fatality.
Exactly.
You know, either or, you know, yourself or somebody, you know, another car.
So that's a good point. We'll
it's-
talk about all the different outcomes that can come about speeding, like, you know, like a fatal accident or something like that.
Yeah, but now tying this back into safety as well, because I was just sitting here thinking about that. As you know, we say, you know, we didn't plan this job out, or we didn't spend an extra 5 minutes because we wanted to hurry up and get the job done. So now somebody got hurt, and instead of saving 5 minutes, now you've shut the job down for half a day because you got to do an investigation because of
Right.
equipment damage or whatever the case. So now I'm speeding and I'm trying to shave off 5 minutes of time.
Right.
Well, now I just added 30 minutes because I'm pulled over getting a ticket,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know, or worse,
absolutely.
I'm not even going to make my destination because, you know, I
got an
got into a
accident.
fatal accident.
And my thing is, if you're late is the difference between being 5 minutes late and 10 minutes late really that big of a difference?
Not at all.
You're already late,
You're
right?
already late.
You know, why speed?
Yeah.
You already been chosen as the guy that's got to bring breakfast now because you're late.
Absolutely.
Hey,
You might-
and that's a good pro tip right there. If you're ever
Absolutely.
running late, you
better pull
stop,
over and get some
you
sandwiches.
get some sandwiches, you get some coffee. You be like, I was late because I stopped to do this.
Well,
for
no,
you guys.
you're no longer the guy that was late. Now you're the guy that brought breakfast.
Right. You're the hero.
I think also to kind of tie it back into what Junior was saying, back to safety, like, at construction sites and stuff, these toolbox talks that we have in the morning, and different maybe weekly talks that you have, it kind of gets your mindset back on track because in my mind and a lot of people's minds, if your speed, you don't think, oh, I'm only saving 5 minutes. None of that really kind of matters when you're in a rush, in a hurry. You're not thinking about outcomes, how much time is really going to save you, because in your mind, it's saving you a ton of time.
But
We're
the
gonna
best
hit
way
the
to get
gas
your
and
mind
go.
back on track is breakfast, man.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I'm looking
Back
out
to
for
the guy
y'all.
bringing breakfast. Yeah.
I'm looking out, man.
What else, Matt? What's some other things we gotta, as far as outcomes?
I guess even a little bit deeper, and I was going to go into some of these statistics here. So the average Virginia driver will face a car insurance premium increase of $64.95 per year. So that's an average, it's not a guarantee or whatever based on what
and that's
insurance
for
you have.
for getting a speeding ticket or
Yeah. I mean, that could be, I don't know if that's speeding ticket specifically, and I guess that's something we could go back and revisit. But I mean, any kind of violation, maybe points on your license for running stop signs or, running red lights or something
Any
like
traffic
that.
violations.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know exactly which one, but I mean, we all know anything that goes against us point wise for insurance, it's going to raise it. So that's one thing it'll do. It also, car insurance increases resulting from moving violations normally last for 3 years. So a Virginia driver speeding 15 miles an hour over the speed limit will pay an extra $193.85 in total insurance increases. So that goes back to the points, and even more money.
Yeah, so that talks about 15 miles, going 15 miles over. I know back in Texas, if you get a speeding ticket, I think if you're going 20 miles over, they start adding on. You got to take a defensive driving course.
Right.
You start, they start adding on things once you really start getting into a different bracket of how fast that you are speeding in school zones. All that.
Yep.
Different things get tagged on just
Yeah.
because.
So speaking of that, it ties right back into safety again. Speeding in construction zones. We got these construction workers working, inches from
Away from
speeding traffic.
traffic.
Next time you drive by a construction site, think about the people working there. Don't think about it being a hindrance to you getting where you're going. Think about those people on the side of the road, their families, and that they're there to work. They're not expecting you to go flying past and swerve into their lane and take out somebody and kill somebody. So,
Absolutely.
really think about those people the next time you're driving by a construction site.
Right, not only that, they're making the road better for you. So, you should be thanking them.
Yeah.
Buying them coffee and stopping and, hey, here you go,
I like that.
Yeah. And so I remember we did a road trip from Maryland to California. And
That's a
you
road
are
trip.
Absolutely
That's a road
crazy
trip,
for
yeah.
That's a
doing that.
journey.
yeah.
That's a
Excursion.
journey.
I need a
Right.
patch to
Road trip?
Oh, nomad.
I need to get that patch to embroider on my headrest or
Right.
something like
Coast to coast.
that.
Right.
But
When you talk about basketball,
one of the common, you see the digital information signs that are on the highways, the main highways, and I could tell you one of the common things that I noticed driving into states as you're crossing over into like Missouri and Utah, wherever. A lot of the signage, the digital signage would post stats and saying, so far this year, 1,280 people have died due to speeding-related accidents. 1,200 people died due to, a speeding accident or something like that. And they'll say something like slow down or buckle up for safety or things like that. So, if you think about that, that's just per state. But just in a year alone, man, I see that you showed us here in 2016. What it was accounts for 27% of all traffic fatalities that year.
involved speeding, right?
Yeah, involved speeding. So I mean that's crazy that in every state I was going through, it was literally every state.
Right.
Had these signs posted up that was talking about as of this month, there's already been this many fatalities related to speeding.
10,111 people. Wow.
Man,
That's a lot of people.
And then something else, so we talk about the money, the fatalities, but another thing is just gas mileage. Speeding really, really knocks down your gas mileage.
Put a hole in that tank.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, at 60, a typical 4-cylinder car might average 30 miles an hour, or 30 miles to the gallon, sorry. At 80, it could fall to about 20 miles per gallon. And that's depending on if you're driving a V8,
Right.
pickup truck.
That's a big difference. 10 miles per gallon.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
you're talking about an extra $500 in gas going from here to California.
But again, a lot of people aren't going to really be doing that math, to really kind of figure that out.
No,
They're
you don't think about it.
Whatever, they're going to speed from one place to the next, hit
When
the
a
gas
person's
brakes.
into the habit of speeding, a lot of times they don't take that into consideration
Right.
at all.
It's
It's
already
just
a
like
habit.
every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So then Lieutenant Oates. So then why would somebody speed? What's the
It's
purpose?
it's a lot of different reasons why a person would speed. Traffic congestion. You know what I mean? Running late. Anonymity, and you know what I mean? Disregard for the law. So if we want to step back and let's talk about traffic congestion. You know what I mean? In the area that we work in right now, DMV area is always congested. I've never been on a road that's not congested, especially around 2:00.
How long is it going to take you to go 10 miles in the D.C. area?
In the DC area, 10 miles can take you 25 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. You know what I'm
This
saying?
morning
But
it took me like 40 minutes.
right, but thinking about somewhere like you were talking about where you came from, back in Pennsylvania, to go 10 miles it'll take you 8 minutes.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So when
Every
you
day.
add those
Yeah,
extra
like I'm
15,
driving
20 minutes,
60 miles to work every day.
absolutely. And then, so that way we gotta plan our day accordingly.
Right.
So we won't run late, because running late, that's another reason why people speed, and you could have accidents and stuff like that.
So you brought up pre-planning again?
Absolutely.
How do you work that into every single one?
Every day,
Pre-plan,
because
man,
I'm trying to get
pre-plan.
the point across that if you don't have a plan, it's not going to work.
Yep.
Okay? Also, like anonymity, people don't really understand what anonymity is. That's like when you're in your vehicle and you're shielded from the rest of the world. You know what I mean? You're in your car and it's just like it's me and my car,
Right.
and we do what we want to do. You know what I mean? I'm going to get
So
to
switch lanes without even looking.
Boom. You know what I mean? Not even look over your shoulder because you think you're the only one out there. You know what I mean? So you got to be wary of drivers like that. You know what I'm saying? And then you got people that think they are above the law. They have disregard for the law. They'll be flying down the street doing 100, flying down the road, and don't even think that it could be a trooper up there.
Right, just because they haven't been caught before, they think that, I'm not
Absolutely.
gonna
But
get
when
caught
they
now.
get caught, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? Now they want to explain, well, blah. They don't want to hear that. So it goes back to what? Planning your day.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
If you know that there's a possibility, or in our case, we know there is
Yeah.
traffic, it's not a possibility, there will be traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Then we know that we need to leave early.
Absolutely.
Wake up earlier, leave earlier, whatever the case,
Right,
but plan
because-
ahead.
Unbeknownst to the genius out there, you know what I mean? You got consequences behind speeding. You know
Wait,
what I mean?
what?
Consequences.
Consequences.
Absolutely. having an accident, losing control of the vehicle. You know what I mean? It's a lot of different consequences that you can run into by speeding.
So a lot of people don't understand that the faster you go, the more likely you are, or the less effective your safety equipment is in your vehicle,
Absolutely.
such as your seat belts, your airbags. The faster you go, the less effective that equipment's going to be. It's designed to help you, to save you in an accident situation. But like I just said, it becomes less effective as you increase the speed.
Right. What about the stopping distance? You're flying. I know we've all been in situations, especially in the DMV. We're flying down the highway and the only thing we see is tail lights.
Yep. Yeah.
So you got to slam on the brakes. You might be going so fast.
People
it's like,
start swerving off into the shoulder.
absolutely, because you're not judging the speed and what's in front of you. So your stopping distance decreases.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, so basically that would come down to, I need to get a special tone for like a safety geek tone, like some kind of ringtone, like
right.
safety geek moment.
Right.
This is when back in high school, when we'd see them questions, like, Train A is leaving Chicago 55 miles an hour, slams on the brake. How long is it going to take them to stop?
I don't know.
Right?
I go to the next question. I don't try to answer that one.
I would just circle A every time.
Right.
A.
Or C.
Hey, but there is a formula out there, so.
Yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
formula for everything. Just not to get too far off the topic, I started studying for my CSP. Oh my god.
Hey, they do have questions like that.
Yeah, they do. That's what
C.
anything.
C.
A squared plus B squared equals C.
Right. So just circling C, man. You know what I mean? I'm not going to even think about it. C.
Yeah, but yeah, talking about consequences. I mean, there's even more than that. We talk about increased fuel consumption. There's all kinds of economic implications.
Yeah.
And then probably the biggest thing as safety professionals look at is how the severity of an injury will increase with speed.
Absolutely.
Junior, you've showed me videos of you coming up on an accident and just you've witnessed some really nasty crashes and probably as a result of speeding.
Yeah, you remember that one that you came back and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, whatever. He was like, no, for real. And when he came back to the office, he had a video of. I knew that was a fatality.
Pulling the guy out of the windshield,
Yeah.
through the windshield.
And I think that's
windshield.
by far the biggest consequence, of all
Oh
of this
yes,
is speeding.
definitely.
Absolutely.
And you got to think of it kind of going back to the work site again, the job site. You just got to think about it. If that family, if your family was in the other car, riding around you or beside you or in front of you,
Absolutely.
behind, you just got to keep that in mind because that is a family, and they have family.
Put it into perspective.
You know,
Every time you pass a construction site, that's your husband or your wife working on that site.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's thankfully some of these states they're actually putting billboard signs out there. Down where I'm live now in Southern Maryland, there's a billboard that I've seen up there, and it's a little kid, and there's a quote saying, drive safe. My dad's working on the road or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so they're trying to raise the awareness, but the problem is when you have individuals like you said disregarding the law. If you have individuals that have the mindset, I'm 5 minutes late, I got to make up for that time, that no one else is in the road, or someone might feel like they're one of the best NASCAR drivers out there, someone like Danica Patrick or somebody out there.
Oh, you a big DP fan?
Right.
So,
absolutely.
And they all of a sudden, it's kind of like when I used to watch, Kung Fu theater when I was a kid, on Saturdays. Dylan, that's before your time.
Right.
No idea what you're
After
talking
Saturday cartoons at noon, they would show Kung Fu matinee. And anyways, after that, we'd want to go and do Kung Fu, like we were Bruce Lee.
Chuck E. Cheese.
But not Chuck E. Cheese.
For real.
I meant to say Jack E. Cheese. You know what I meant.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Same
So,
thing.
but think about, people that watch these shows, The Fast and the Furious, and watch NASCAR, and all of a sudden they get in the road and they want to start reenacting, some of these
Oh, yeah.
things.
I mean, we know some individuals who, big NASCAR fans, and we know how they drive.
Right. Absolutely.
Every time they get into that car, they're Jimmy
So that would be
Johnson.
good to bring up aggressive driving.
Yeah.
how do you-
But before we go to aggressive driving,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it comes down to money. If you're speeding, you know what I'm saying, you're paying for a lot of gas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So unless you
Tickets,
got
gas.
bottomless pockets, drive how you want to. I can't tell a man how to drive, but just
Yeah.
be careful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, let's talk about that.
So aggressive driving.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I guess I'll just throw the question out to you guys. I mean, how do you handle aggressive drivers? And
me personally, and
what's
so
the simplest,
Road spikes.
answer or solution?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would work.
me personally,
I wish.
I tend to just move over out of their way, right?
Absolutely, you have to.
If I'm in the left lane, someone's coming up on me, I move over to the right and let them pass. I mean, that's the simplest way to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to give them plenty of space, man. You can't let a person that likes to speed crowd you.
Yeah.
Because eventually he's going to get frustrated. You know what I mean? He's going to get too close. And if something wants to run out in front of you, or if you have to dodge something, you have to hit your brakes, you're about to get rear-ended. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Depending on what state, that no fault is not in your benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and, you tell them, giving us more space or giving them more space, it's gonna help us because they're the ones that's gonna lose control, and by giving us that space, it gives us that buffer zone. So,
Yeah, you don't want to make a game of it, or a competition.
yeah,
And we've all heard stories of, you don't know who's in either car.
Right.
and you don't know what kind of day
You don't
they
know
have.
what they have on, any kind of gun, weapons.
You know what I
things like
mean?
that. So
back in
it's-
my younger driving days,
last year.
yeah. Easy with the shots, guys. No, I was driving road trip to Florida, so from Pennsylvania to Florida, and it's in the middle of the night. I'm like 18 years old, and I'm going like 70 miles an hour, and this Jeep keeps coming up on my left and passing me, and then getting in front of me and slowing down. So we keep going back and forth, passing each other until we're both at like 90 miles an hour. And my dad wakes up and goes, "What are you doing?" Like, he won't let me pass him. So I mean, we've all fallen victim to it,
Y'all was just keeping each other awake.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
a
yeah.
thing. You know what I mean? They were sleeping.
Yeah. I took some of that no-dose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so I saw signage. I think it was in Utah. I don't remember now, but it had to be Utah. No, where's Yellowstone at? The national park, Utah. I don't know.
No, it's in Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Yeah.
Because I was coming through there, they had a lot of the signage up that said you camp at the park, not in the left lane.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
so I was like, okay, that's pretty catchy, right?
Yep.
So left lane's made for passing. It's not for
Mm-hmm.
it's not made for hanging out and all of that stuff. So there's ways that we can avoid some of them aggressive drivers. Hey, just give them the lane. Just let them go through.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're really aggressive, and like I've seen before, they'll start passing people on the shoulders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
that
that happens a lot here.
Yes,
in the
it
DMV,
does.
a lot. But I've
They
seen
make
them
it a
get-
whole new lane.
I've seen them get pulled over, but I heard that ticket is like $300. I don't have $300 to give somebody for me being 2 or 3 minutes late. Like I said, I'm pulling in, getting some sandwiches. You know what I mean? And coming in like, hey man, we gotta eat, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be paying $300, for 3 minutes. I'm not doing that.
Yep, and stay off your phones. I know.
Oh yeah.
Didn't talk too much about that, but
Yeah. Well,
people-
no, I got an earpiece, man. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk on the phone.
well, just even going through apps and like we were saying earlier, going through
Mhm.
different movies and videos and all
Yeah,
this
yeah.
other stuff, the red lights, and then it turns green and they're still sitting there.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you bring
See
up a
them
good
going
point
through
with the
their
phones.
phone.
Like, driving is completely different now with smartphones than it used to be with. I mean, I've been driving mostly in the smartphone era. I'll take a shot at myself there, but I can imagine how different it is now with distracted driving. It's a big deal to be driving down the road. You look to the person in front of you is swerving all over the place. You got to pass them, and you look, and they're just
And they're
playing
looking
on their
down
phone.
on their phones, right?
And I mean, they will, the cops or whoever investigate that will go through your phone.
Yeah,
if it's
absolutely.
a fatality, and if they
Oh,
see
yeah.
you sent text messages or
Yep.
something.
Mhm.
Hey,
Yeah, you're gonna
but
be
even
paying for
realistic,
it.
look, I've even seen them on their phones while they're
Oh yeah,
driving.
but they've been
Absolutely.
trained to do that.
So let's go around the room and tell a story about the weirdest thing we've seen someone do while driving a car. Because I guarantee I win this one.
Just start off with yours because I can't think of anything.
So I'm driving down here in DC, and we're going about 20 miles an hour. It's slow traffic. I look to my left, and the person beside me has no hands on the steering wheel, playing a violin in a minute while driving. And I don't think
Wow.
anybody can top that one.
I've seen
If you
people-
can, please
Yeah.
call in, comment,
No.
message us. Let us know if you can beat that
Right.
one, because
For real.
to this day I've never seen anything like that. Playing a violin while
Right.
driving.
Now, I'll tell you what was so funny about that story is that after you said that, I just went in and Googled, just to see.
Yeah.
And there's actually a video out there of somebody doing something like that. That's
Oh, really?
On YouTube. Yeah, I said, really?
Yeah.
Somebody's really, and they wanted to post that they were actually, playing the violin. I was just like, granted, they were actually parked in traffic when they were,
Yeah.
but they're still in traffic,
Yeah.
Let's
doing
not
something.
start
I've
one of
seen
those-
people reading books.
Right, absolutely.
Let's not
I
start
guess
one
I
of those
better
new
buy-
challenges. That everybody.
I guess I
Hashtag
better,
violin while driving.
I would have taken a video, but I didn't want to be that guy driving, taking a video.
right. I guess I better buy a harmonica and be just driving with
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
All right. Let's bring it back
Because
to
this-
reality here. We're getting-
This traffic here give you the blues.
Yeah. So we were talking about dealing with speeding and aggressive drivers.
Yeah. So,
Um,
now this part might be hard, but it's something I think that is a necessary thing to do out there. If we see someone that is just out of line, driving aggressively, swerving all over the place, don't hesitate to call the cops. Call 911. Hey, there's a crazy driver out here. And just bring it to someone's attention as far as the police goes. The accident that you were referring to, Dylan, that I had seen, that we had to pull the driver of a dump truck through the windshield. It was another driver's fault, and whenever that driver went across the lane and created a head-on collision with a dump truck. Now, whenever another driver had stopped, and by the time the police were there and everything, they were telling the police officer that car was driving crazy 2 cities ago,
Right.
and
They've been following them that whole time. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if you saw this person driving that crazy 2 cities ago, 2 cities back, why wouldn't you have called?
Right.
Because it got to the point where they even seen this person passing on a 2-lane bridge.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm like,
See something.
why
say
wouldn't
something.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Why wouldn't you have called the cops at that point? You know. And now, and it's sad to say that driver that was driving reckless lost their life in that incident. So they were the ones driving crazy, and unfortunately, they lost their life. But it could have ultimately been prevented somewhere, you know.
And I hate to
back
sound
then.
like a cliche, but that phone call, calling the police because of an aggressive driver, could have saved someone's life, specifically in that instance, but in many instances. So if you are that person following someone just driving, absolutely ridiculous, don't hesitate to call the cops, because you could save a life. That day, a life could have been saved.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. Unless you're in NASCAR, don't call the cops.
Right.
The person in front of you.
They're supposed to be going
Yeah.
faster than
Unless they turn right.
we got an issue.
If they turn right, they've probably been drinking and
Been drinking,
driving.
it's time to run, to get out of the bleachers and leave the area.
You know, Damon, when we were talking about this beforehand, you had brought up a good point that I didn't even think about. And you were talking about safety and friendships don't mix when
Don't
it
mix.
comes to this.
Not at all.
Explain that.
Well, think about it. If you have a good friend and you're in a car with him and he's doing crazy stuff and you don't say anything about him, you don't say anything about it. You just let him drive crazy, speed, pass vehicles and stuff like that. Then you're putting not only him at risk, you're putting yourself at risk too for being in the car with him and not saying anything. You know what I mean? Because in a split second, something can happen that we have no control over, especially if we're not behind the wheel. So the friendship and safety driving.
Yeah. Even with working together,
it
you know,
doesn't
working
mix.
with your friend.
It doesn't mix. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Think about it. Even safety on the job. It don't mix. Friendship and safety on the job.
Yeah.
It doesn't mix.
Yep. It's kind of like the same, you know, friends don't let friends drive drunk.
Yep.
Well, I mean, you could almost just say friends don't let friends drive crazy.
Right. Absolutely.
You know,
Reckless.
I mean, yeah, drive reckless, right? So I could tell you there's been times I've been a passenger in a car and seen somebody switch lanes without looking over their shoulder, speed a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to throw my wife under the bus or anything like that, you know.
Boy,
but
it really seems like you might.
Hold on. Right. Hey, I'm turning this way. I don't want nothing to do with that one.
I'm not going to say
Turn
never.
it this
you're
way.
listening.
That wasn't
Right.
on here.
That's all him.
That's all Junior.
Hey, we better cut this section
Right.
out.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say I never, you know, checked the seatbelt, you know, before I buckled in.
Someone's sleeping
Edel,
on
you're
the
an
couch
excellent
after this one,
driver.
man.
You're an excellent driver. I'm not in on that, Junior.
Nope.
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, man.
Someone just took the brunt of that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just to wrap this one up as well, you know, there's so many things, right, that we could talk about this, just like in all of our podcasts. You know, that there's so many ways that we can expand on this. I mean, we could talk about speeding with distractive driving. You know, speeding while you're under the influence of alcohol or drugs. You know, there's so many ways. You know, speeding through school zones. And, you know, unfortunately, there's a lot of stories that have gone out there where people have sped around a bus while they're picking up kids.
Absolutely.
And cars have struck children. And, I mean, just these terrible and horrible stories that are out there. People running late to work and striking a kid at a bus stop. I mean, there's no excuse for that, right? But there's ways to avoid all that, you know, as well. You know, we touched it a little bit on the technical stuff. You know, how much time is actually really going to save you.
Right. Bringing this full circle, it is saving 10 minutes really worth the possibility
Everybody
of,
can agree on that.
injuring someone else or yourself? You know, is it worth that extra risk?
Yeah.
Not at all.
You know, and I know we touched on the gas mileage. We touched on the insurance deal. You know, and it's it's one of those things. Hey, if you got the money to blow, and you want to blow $300 on
Right.
speeding tickets,
Right.
you know, lose points off your license or whatever the case. Hey, that's all on you. All I'm gonna say is that, regardless of all that, regardless if you're okay with paying speeding tickets, if you're okay with paying more on your insurance, what I'm not okay with, and what anybody else shouldn't be okay with, is putting somebody else's life at risk.
Right.
Just because you're running late to a meeting.
Absolutely.
You know, hey, just do it the Lieutenant Oates way. Just stop and get breakfast.
Yeah.
And
Do
the
the-
effects
do
of that
breakfast.
may never end, you know?
Right.
And a
Yeah.
fatality,
That
I mean,
could
Right.
change someone's life forever.
Absolutely. You know.
You know, and I think that brings us to, you know, our main goal of these podcasts is to encourage people to make that change. So, you know, make that change in the way you drive and stop speeding. Because making a change impacts me, making a difference impacts others, and making history impacts the world.
Yep. And thank you again, Mr. Matthew Wireman. He's the guy that you could talk to about wire if you ever need. He is our wireman.
Boy, I bet you've never
First
heard
time
that
I
joke.
heard that. Yeah, that is brand new. Man, you got any more of them?
Right.
And again, coming to you live from the HardHat Uncovered Studios in Alexandria, Virginia. Be sure to follow us on all podcasts, Instagram, Twitter, everything you could think of. Just follow us out there at HardHat Uncovered. If you got any questions, any comments, anything you'd like us to talk about, send them in at hardhatuncovered@gmail.com. All right, thank you,
All right,
everybody.
appreciate it. Have a good one, guys.